The Downtown Rams podcast is brought to you by Rams On Demand, Seat Giant, Vibe 305, and RWO, Rams World Order. Now enjoy the show.
Down the middle, to the end zone, caught by Brandon Cooks. Shoot your arrows. It picks. Nickel Roby Coleman throws. End zone caught, touchdown, Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp plucks it out of the air and gives the Rams the lead. LaMarcus Joyner returns to the lineup with an interception in London. 35-30. Robert Woods, first down 20. 10-5. Touchdown. LA. No, it's Goff who keeps it. And Goff goes crashing into the end zone. Aaron Donald almost beat the football there and comes away with his third sack of the afternoon. Met immediately and sacked. Corey Littleton, have yourself a day. And he gets gobbled up. Savage has to eat it as Michael Brockers picks up the sack. He's decked by Ebukam. Picked off. Marcus Peters strutting his stuff. Mark Barron the last 4 weeks has been a Pro Bowler. He picked off Dak Prescott into Seattle territory, into the clear. 30, 20, Farrell Cooper 10. Farrell Cooper at the goal line. Cousins sacked. Ndamukong Suh. Of all the guys, it's the rookie John Franklin Myers who knocks it out of Cousins' right hand. Todd Gurley, 20, 10, Gurley for MVP, touchdown LA!
Welcome back, guys, to another Downtown Rams podcast. It comes after the biggest, most incredible win I've seen in a long time in any sport, I'll add. The Rams outgunning the Kansas City Chiefs 54-51 in what was a total thriller. Before we get into it, because we are going to dive pretty deep into this game, it's going to be a different post-game than you're used to. But before we get into it, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Downtown Rams. We also have Facebook and Instagram. I am joined here by my buddy Blaine Grisak, and I'm very happy he was willing to join the show tonight. I'm pretty stoked because we got a lot to talk about. We were texting throughout the game, so Blaine, thanks for coming on, and this should be fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be on because this game, oh my gosh, yeah. Both teams scoring 50 or more points for the first time in NFL history, just back and forth. Like, if this was a Super Bowl preview, like, I was struggling to, like, handle it last night. Like, I was going crazy. If the stakes are 10 times higher, I'm not sure how I'm going to manage. But, oh my gosh, probably the greatest regular season football game of all time, and I can't wait to break it down.
Oh, absolutely, man. It was, it's crazy, Blaine, because this was talked about for weeks. I mean, the Rams were going up against the Cardinals week 2, and people were like, I just want to see Rams-Chiefs. Like, I just want to see that. The storyline's there, built right in with Sammy Watkins going to the Chiefs, former Ram, and the former Chiefs cornerback Marcus Peters being traded to the Rams. There were storylines that were built in. Patrick Mahomes, the comments Watkins said about how he was so excited to play under a young star in the making quarterback, and Rams fans didn't like that very much. There was all of this going in. Obviously, Andy Reid is a great play caller. He's a great coach, and there was some. I myself, as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, he was my guy. I really doubted that they would be this good this quickly. And it was, like you said, it was the greatest regular season game probably of all time. I went into work today, Blaine, and literally every one of my coworkers mentioned the game. That's how big it was. And to me, not all my coworkers watch football. So, they saw, the highlights and such, and they all know I'm a Rams fan, so they were all congratulating me. To me, it just felt bigger. And I tweeted about this before the game. I was like, this game feels bigger than just a game. It feels bigger than just a 9-1 and 9-1 team, versus each other. It feels bigger than just a home game, a primetime game. It was like an event. And Blaine, I'll be honest, I was jealous as hell to not be there.
I mean, yes, same. I mean, I was living out in San Diego a year and a half ago, and like I never wanted to be back in San Diego, so I could have just gone to the football game. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it was everything that was built up into this game. I mean, you had the shooting in Thousand Oaks a couple weeks ago. You had the fires. I mean, Jared Goff hadn't been able to stay at his house for a week and a half. I mean, there are other families that were in his situation. I mean, Rams practiced in Colorado. You had the game scheduled to be played in Mexico City. Then it got located to Los Angeles. I mean, with how much the Rams organization promoted the fire department and just the police departments, is everything built up in this game. Like you said, the storylines between the offenses, 9-1 going up against 9-1, potential Super Bowl preview. Yeah, and I mean, and not to mention, it was on Monday Night Football. Like the stage doesn't get any bigger, other than maybe like obviously the Super Bowl. But I mean, as far as the regular season game goes, I mean, the storylines are there. The stage was set. Like, yeah, I mean, this wasn't just another football game. This was two of the NFL's best teams going head to head on Monday Night Football, which is arguably the biggest stage during the week. I
couldn't agree more.
I guess to even go on your point of your coworkers talking to you, like my aunt who doesn't watch football was like texting me during the game, like, "Oh my gosh, this game is insane," and I was like, "Oh, I know, I don't know how I'm going to be able to like make it through the rest of this game because it's crazy." And so I mean, it's the same thing that America was watching this football game. All eyes were on this game, and you can bet the Rams like going from St. Louis to LA. I mean, the whole thing has been building up the fan base. You can guarantee the Rams they earned some fans last night.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think, I mean, first off, Blaine, I can't imagine being on the losing end of a game like this because, this is something that, I mean, it could derail you. I'm not saying it will, but all I can say is Kansas City can either make themselves or break themselves coming out of the bye. They could let this get to their head. I think they need to have the same approach they did. They lost to the Patriots and also what was a pretty thrilling Sunday Night Football game that doesn't even come anywhere near this game. But, I think like being in the Rams position right now, I know the Saints beat them. I know we've had discussions about this, and the Saints are a great football team. I feel like the Rams are in a better position. They win this game, obviously means so much more than football. They win this at home. I think they finally reclaimed the Coliseum for what it is. I think they have the potential to have the best home field advantage in the playoffs. I really do. I think this is going to wake people up. And, I mean, they sold 77,000+ tickets, like, with a week notice. It was incredible what everyone was able to do to put this game together, to put this event together. It just seemed bigger than it was, like I mentioned. But the thing is, the Rams seem like they're in the best place of any team right now. They're getting reinforcements, like I've said multiple times on this show. The Eagles last year, I think it was very imperative that they were able to get Ronald Darby and Sidney Jones, closer to the end of the year into their playoff run, albeit they did lose Carson Wentz and they lost Jason Peters. But when you talk about reinforcements, the Rams have kind of a similar situation. They lose Kupp for the year. They lost guys like Mo Fox. They lost Kevin Peterson. They have guys gone for the year, but they're getting Talib back. They got Pharaoh Cooper back. This was really just him dipping his foot in the water. He's going to be a lot more effective, I think, as the season progresses. And, I mean, Aqib Talib, I think, is going to be able to play Week 13 against the Lions. So now, that's enough time to really shake off the rust and be ready for the playoffs. But the Rams, they put up 54 points. They give up 51, but no team has won a game in the 50s against another opponent in the 50s because it simply never happened before. And to do that, the bright lights of LA with Todd Gurley kind of reeling throughout the whole game, you could see it. He was banged up early on after a Dorian O'Daniel tackle out of bounds. He kind of landed awkwardly on his leg. I just think, what the Rams were able to do without Todd Gurley. We've been talking about him as MVP. I mean, he was not as effective. He wasn't really used very often, but they get the win. They score 54 points. They beat a 9-1 team. They're now 10-1, and they have a bye. I mean, what a blessing. I mean, if you told me that the Rams were going to finish that game the way they did without Todd Gurley, well, better yet, I'm pretty sure you said this in text. If you told me Samson Ebukam was going to have 2 touchdowns and Todd Gurley was going to have 0, I would have laughed at you. It was, but we'll dive into the game. We're talking too much out of it. Let's dive right in, Blaine, because there's so much to talk about, and I'm really hyped. I know you are too.
Yeah, there is so much to talk about. I mean, I guess, this game you knew that there was going to be a lot of scoring. I don't think anybody expected 105 points worth of scoring, but people expected a lot of scoring, and the Rams did that right on their first drive. I mean, granted, the Chiefs kind of helped them there a little bit. You had the defensive pass interference, and then you had the unnecessary roughness penalty late in the red zone. But I mean, I think the big play there was obviously the Jared Goff, Brandon Cooks connection in this game was it was unstoppable. I mean, Jared Goff was looking Cooks' way a lot. Cooks made his presence known in that weak Kansas City secondary, and Jared Goff just was finding him throughout the game. And I mean, it happened on the first drive, 30-yard pass, and that really kind of set up that early touchdown.
Yeah, it was very important for that drive to kick it off with a big play. I mean, really, just Goff, it's a short and intermediate passing game early on. Goff feeds his receiver. Cooks is, coming up the field with a slant to the left side, and he takes it down the sidelines and gets, I think it was like a 30-yard play. I mean, when you look at, plays like that, those are staples in Sean McVay's offense. Those quick slants, the ins, the out routes. I mean, he uses it all. He there's a lot of deception in the trenches when you have guys flexing out, like Gerald Everett. You have him going in motion. He takes a random jet sweep or something like that. Like, Sean McVay has all these different wrinkles in his offense, and I think you could definitely see, as bad as the Chiefs secondary was, I thought they did a better job than I expected, as they kind of, I would say they settled down more towards the end of the game. But we're talking first quarter, and you're talking first drive, and that first drive was so much, it reminded me so much of the Rams' answer against the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. To me, that was the drive where you're like, wow, okay, they just set the tone. The touchdown.
I guess, let me ask you this. So, obviously, in the Saints game, the Rams, they won the toss and deferred. The Chiefs do the same thing in this game. They win the toss and defer to the Rams. I mean, so I guess, do you think getting the ball first, and getting the lead early, was deferring in the Saints game the wrong decision, and getting the ball early in this game the right thing? So like you said, set the tone, get those first points, and put pressure on the Chiefs right away. And I guess I'm looking back to the Saints game, because I mean the Rams, they were behind. It felt like they were working from behind the entire game, whereas this game they were in control from the get-go, and it all started on this first drive.
Yeah, I actually think that. I mean, that's a great question. I've had the idea in my head that you always defer until that game, and then, I really think you can sum it up by this, Blaine. I think when you're on the road, you take the ball, because you can't afford to go down early on and let them pile it on when they have the home crowd. I mean, you instantly put yourself in a rough spot, and I think that's the incredible thing. Not all teams are like the Chiefs. So, Blaine, this is a blowout against half the teams in the league. This is an instant blowout. The Rams take the lead. They're upset. 6-0 because their line misses the extra point. But I mean, this is instantly a blowout, because the next, and I don't want to go away from this drive just yet, because that pass by Goff to the back left corner of the end zone to Robert Woods, who makes a phenomenal catch. It's a phenomenal throw over a defender, and Robert Woods getting his feet in bounds in the back of the end zone. I mean, really impressive stuff. Just a great drive, and that's just one of the things that I like more about the Rams offense than the Chiefs, because I think, excuse me, I think when you look at this offense, I think they're more Belichickian Patriot-like. I think they're more methodical. They are cerebral, and I think they really like to soften up the defense for different things down the line. Now, McVay mentioned today in the presser, as we were recording this on a Monday, or a Tuesday, sorry. McVay, announced this during his presser that basically, like he said, they were daring them to throw. They respected the hell out of Todd Gurley. I mean, they were saying, throw the ball. We're gonna make sure we don't let Todd Gurley beat us. And it wasn't even them. It was like, the Rams really didn't, on the first drive, they used him a little bit. But like I said, that tackle by Dorian O'Daniel, I think is it's the key of the game here, because now all of a sudden, we all saw it. Todd Gurley goes down awkwardly on the sideline, and you're thinking, oh, he gets back up, but it didn't look good, Blaine. It's something that I think you and I both noticed. And I instantly was texting people like, is Gurley okay? Because later on, as we're about to talk about, he was out and Malcolm Brown was in.
Yeah, I kind of it was. I kind of saw him going out awkwardly. The broadcast didn't really mention anything, and then Brown goes in. Gurley is out for quite a while. I think it was the next offensive series. He's out. I think until they get inside the 10-yard line. And at that moment, I kind of thought, Gurley must be hurt. He must have gotten hurt on that tackle, because, I mean, the Rams just don't phase Gurley out of their game plan like they did in this game. And I mean, granted, the Chiefs, I kind of think mimicked Seattle from last week in the sense that Seattle has success stopping the run, playing a bare front on the defensive line, and Kansas City was doing a lot of that last night and found success with it, because the Rams, quite simply, they struggled running the football, and a lot of that was because they did abandon it because Gurley was off. But credit Kansas City for stopping it as well. But this is really the first game this season, and really I think in his career, where the Rams said, Jared Goff, it's your time to shine. Now show us what you can do, and he delivered. I mean, he missed some throws, but there were definitely some that he would like to have back. He had the 2 fumbles, but like you said, I mean, the pass to Robert Woods in the back of the end zone was a beauty.
Absolutely, man. And again, it set the tone, and, I just, that was such a great drive, and I don't know if a team wins a game without starting like that. I mean, I just think, to me, that is so important. It's not necessarily about how you start, it's about how you finish, but I just think that was so important. Seeing as how the game went down, without Todd Gurley, you had to put points on the board, and the Rams were able to do that. But, the next drive, I think, was also very impressive. I think it goes without saying, because Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs come out, and it's 6-0 Rams, and everyone's assuming it's going to be like the Vikings. Vikings score on the first drive, Rams score on the second drive, just like, the Thursday Night Football game. That, however, is not the case. You get the first play of the game for the Chiefs on offense is a Demetrius Harris penalty on an 18-yard Kareem Hunt play, and then that makes it 1st and 18, and then you have Mahomes throwing short right to Sammy Watkins for about 4 yards, and then he comes out of the game. You could tell Sammy Watkins, he wanted to be out there. I respect him as a competitor for coming out and actually playing in this game. But this was, I mean, you could tell he was not 100%. He probably shouldn't have played, to be quite honest.
Yeah, his ankle, his ankle definitely wasn't right. But yeah, I mean, we talked about setting the tone on that first drive, and granted, the Chiefs kind of shot themselves in the foot multiple times on this drive. I mean, it was first you had the illegal block, and then you had a false start later on. The Chiefs really they held themselves back on the first drive. That rather than answering the Rams, they were they went essentially 3 and out. It was a 4-play drive, but essentially they were off the field pretty quick, and that really was a great that was a good thing for the Rams defense. I think, granted the Chiefs scored 51 points, but I think that kind of gave the Rams some confidence that, they can stop this offense. And yeah, I think as much as the Rams set the tone on offense on the first drive, the defense set the tone as well.
Yeah, and it's funny, as fun as the first drive was, then the Rams outdo themselves on the second drive. The first drive goes 6 plays, 75 yards. The next drive goes 10 plays, 83 yards, and it's capped off by a not a back shoulder fade, but rather a closer to the corner of the end zone type fade, where I will say Goff missed.
This is my guy, Jake. This is my guy, Josh Reynolds, coming in clutch for that.
Oh, I know.
Touchdown. Oh my gosh, I was going crazy. This is. I've been on the J Ray bandwagon since day one, and people weren't really on him after his lackluster preseason and training camp, but he definitely earned his spot on the roster in this game, and it started with this touchdown.
Yeah, and this drive was really special because you got to see a little bit of everything from the Rams as far as the passing game's perspective. You saw Tyler Higbee with a 16-yard catch. Josh Reynolds obviously had his yards. Robert Woods had the big 25-yard play. They run it with Gurley a little bit. Didn't really get anything going there. But then they get to Brandon Cooks, and then. Like I was saying, Josh Reynolds gets the touchdown. Jared Goff actually had the guy who was slanting over the middle in the end zone open, and that was Robert Woods. But you could tell he wanted that touchdown. He threw that fade as perfect as you can throw it, and Josh Reynolds made a nice play on the ball, attacking the ball at its highest point and making sure to get both feet in the back of the end zone. It was very impressive. It was almost I would say it's probably more impressive than the first touchdown, as great as, Woods' touchdown was. Josh Reynolds did not have a lot of real estate left when he made that, made that attempt at the ball. But that was key because now you're up 13-0. This Chiefs team, everyone's been talking about this. Oh, this is going to be such a, close game. It's going to be high scoring. Well, at this point in the game, things looked really good for the Rams and really bad for the Chiefs. But we all know how this goes.
Yeah, again, though, the Chiefs, they shot themselves in the foot on the first Rams possession. They shot themselves in the foot with penalties on their offensive possession. Here again, you have a penalty of illegal use of the hands, 5-yard penalty. That's not an automatic first down. You have two offsides penalties, initial zone infraction and encroachment. Just undisciplined play on the defensive line there late. That gave. One of them set up. It was 3rd and 11 from the 19, and instead of facing 3rd and 11, that penalty forces a 3rd and 6, and Goff hits Brandon Cooks there for 6 yards to get the first down. So, the Chiefs were. The Rams were feeling it on those first 2 drives. They had 2 very methodical drives, but Kansas City definitely helped them out just a little bit.
They definitely did. And the next drive you'll see, 13-0, and Kansas City, this is really important because if Kansas City 3 and outs here, this could be a real bad game for Kansas City. You're talking 13-0, the crowd's going nuts, the Rams have the crowd, and now, the Chiefs 3 and out. Well, that's not the case because they have Patrick Mahomes, they have a lot of playmakers, and of course, this drive starts off with, I think it was a pretty nice return by Tremont Smith, and then, Patrick Mahomes sets up, throws to Kelsey short, and then, Kareem Hunt gets a 27-yard play, and then you're looking at, them at the Los Angeles 45 already, 2 plays in. And then, Mahomes gets it to Tyreek Hill for 25 yards, or rather 20 yards, and they get to the 25-yard line, and then there's a touchdown to Tyreek Hill. So, in 4 plays, the Chiefs are able to go 75 yards, and just when you thought that this was, starting to turn the tide for the Rams, Chiefs strike right back. Don't let this, become an issue. The next drive, I'll say, though, Blaine, this is, I think, the drive that really could have derailed the Rams. I felt like they absolutely needed to score a touchdown here. They went 9 plays for 79 yards right after that touchdown by Kansas City. I said early on in the week, Kansas City was too explosive for their own good. Now I get it. This game, obviously, that may not have been the case, but I think they scored too quickly on the previous drive, and I think that's why the Rams were able to really just drive down the field at will once again. The defense seemed a little uneasy, and you didn't really give them a chance after giving up 2 straight touchdowns on 2 straight drives. You didn't really give them a chance to reset, recoup, get everything going. I mean, they just seemed like you're throwing them back on the field unprepared. I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought, the Rams had multiple opportunities in this game to really, the Rams won by 3, but they honestly probably could have won by double digits. I mean, and it starts here. I mean, the real Rams defense decided to show up and allowed Kansas City to score in 4 plays, which was very fast. But yeah, then the Rams get the ball back, go 9 plays. But I mean, this drive was literally a chip pass away from potentially being another 6 points. If that ball doesn't get tipped and the pass interference stands, then this might be an entirely different ball game, because maybe the Rams do end up punching it in for 6. I mean, the field goal was disappointing. It kept Kansas City in it and gave them, you score here and you go up 20-7. That's a pretty big deficit early on. Instead you get the field goal, it stays a 10-point game, or I guess a 9-point game. Sorry, and it's a much different ball game.
Yeah, and that drive was really capped off on Brandon Cooks actually draws the pass interference and gets taken out of the game, goes to the locker room. Clearly he was cramping up. This was a Josh Reynolds and Malcolm Brown show on that drive, and I was very impressed with both players, because clearly Todd Gurley wasn't healthy enough to get back in the game, and Josh Reynolds stepped up big time. He was the guy on that drive, but the thing that just really irked me was the red zone. I felt like they got way too predictable in the red zone, and then that third down probably shouldn't even happen with the tip pass, because you're talking, they're down in the red zone and you have it's 1st and goal. Malcolm Brown runs left tackle 1 yard. 2nd and goal, Goff goes to Josh Reynolds, and that was the bummer there, because Josh Reynolds was so close to getting that touchdown. It's like if he just had a lower size shoe, it's probably a touchdown. Like that right there, like you said, if they punch that in, we have a different ball game. I mean, that was pivotal. And I remember, obviously watching that game and just thinking, I'm not satisfied with 3 points. That was a drive that they should have scored a touchdown on. But, one thing I got to point out, McVay, I believe, is 16th in offensive red zone efficiency. Yeah. He's getting better every year, but he's not quite, an elite offensive red zone play caller, and that's okay because he's still got plenty of time.
Granted, in this game, I mean, at least early on here, I mean, Gurley didn't come in until I think the last 2 plays on this drive, maybe. Aside from that, it was all Malcolm Brown, and Todd Gurley is such a threat in the red zone where, I mean, you get inside the 5. I mean, ideally you'd like to run the football, and I mean, you take Todd Gurley out of the equation, you're throwing that you're dealing with a shorter field. I mean, there's not as much space to work with, obviously, especially when you're at the 5-yard line like the Rams were. So, I mean, I think not having Gurley here definitely didn't help them. But, I mean, you're a Josh Reynolds shoe size away and a ball not being tipped away from a potential touchdown. And, I mean, they get a field goal and the Chiefs remain in striking distance.
Yeah, and they definitely do, because the next drive, you're looking at an 11-play drive by the Chiefs, and this is, albeit they dominated the Rams on that drive, but this is a win for the Rams. They hold the Chiefs to a field goal, 21 yards. Anytime you have a team kicking a 30 or minus yard field goal, you won that drive. As long as it's not the game winner, but you pretty much you won that drive. You allowed 11 plays for 73 yards on the Chiefs, and they still weren't able to punch it in the end zone. This explosive offense, I was thinking at the time, and I'm like, wow, I don't know how they I don't know how they stopped him and held him to a field goal, but they were able to do it. And I thought that was very impressive by the Rams to kind of gather themselves. This doesn't happen without, and I'll mention this play, and we know what play I'm going to mention. 3rd and goal, Los Angeles 1-yard line. You see it all the time, Blaine, where running backs are able to kind of tiptoe their way in the end zone, almost walk untouched on the left side towards the pylon, or you see them just dive to the pylon and they get it. Well, not to be. Mahomes pitches it to Kareem Hunt. This is due to the fact that Corey Littleton holds his side, basically, setting the edge, playing his man, allowing Mahomes, basically buying John Johnson some time to get over to the left side of the field, the far left side of the field, because he's playing strong safety, mind you. So he buys him time, and because he sets the tone there, he plays contain. Now Mahomes has to pitch it in that option. He gets it to Kareem Hunt, and by the time Hunt gets it, John Johnson is running at him with a head full of steam, and he nails him and saves the touchdown. And that was a moment, man. Let me tell you, that was huge.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams have had a lot of players on their defense underperform this season. I mean, it starts with, I think, LaMarcus Joyner and Marcus Peters to name 2 of them. But I mean, on this play, I mean, Corey Littleton for some reason gets a bunch of flack, and I don't know how, because he's not the perfect linebacker by far, but he's quietly second in the league in tackles right now. And it seems like he's in the right place at the right time, very solid. And here he plays very disciplined, and instead of breaking contain, he keeps contained. He contains the edge and forces Mahomes to pitch it out to Kareem Hunt. And if he doesn't and allows Mahomes to run the ball in, I mean, that's a game-changing play right there. And credit to Littleton for keeping on his assignment and forcing Mahomes to pitch it out to Hunt, and allowing John Johnson, who's really balling out this year, to make a very important tackle there at the 1-yard line.
Exactly, and let me tell you, because the next play, the next drive, what you're going to see, Blaine, I mean, it's a 3-play drive. It goes -4 yards, and it doesn't even last a minute and a half. And you have Todd Gurley, who's back in the game, runs for 5 yards. You have Jared Goff, who gets sacked. And then 3rd and 13, Jared Goff gets sacked again. Allen Bailey, I'm just going to say this right now, he had a game. He was phenomenal. And he gets sacked, forces the fumble. It is recovered, it's recovered by Allen Bailey. It's forced by Dee Ford. And it's just a huge turnaround, because right after that, it only takes one play, 21 yards, and you see Kareem Hunt, who goes 21 yards on a passing play by Patrick Mahomes. It's a screen pass, and man, I think he was touched maybe the last 2 yards of that play. He looked really fast and just so explosive on that play, and you could tell the tide was turning for the Chiefs, and that is the key. When you're in games like this, you can't afford these turnovers. I'll say this right now, I think Jared Goff did hold the ball too long, but I also got to say this, Blaine, because, as great as the offensive line has been, it seems like they get a pass, at times in these situations. And it's more so, we've talked about this, we're going to, basically penalize Todd Gurley, and he's not going to be an MVP because of how great the offensive line is. And then we're also going to penalize Jared Goff for being in this scheme and everything. But, man, Jared Goff got hit hard that night. I I think the refs kind of missed some calls where I mentioned it to you. I felt like, guys were headhunting at him. I was a little worried about his health. I mean, there was one play. This might have been the play where it took him a while to get up. But I will say, Blaine, I don't know about you, but I just felt like the offensive line on this play was just horrid.
I mean, you're right. It was a disaster. I mean, if it's the play that I'm thinking of, I believe there was a miscommunication, and I think Austin Blythe completely. I believe Bailey ran right past him and sacked Goff. There's just a miscommunication between, I think, him and Sullivan, and then on the sack, Goff maybe holds on the ball too long. He tries to create something out of nothing. I think on this certain play, you just got to take the sack and live to see another down. The Chiefs score a touchdown one play after this, and we mentioned 5 minutes ago how important it was for John Johnson and Corey Littleton to make the stop on the third and goal. I mean, if they don't, the Rams go from being up 16-7 to being down 21-16, and instead it's a 17-16 ball game because they were able to stop Kansas City to a field goal on the previous drive. So that just goes back to show you how big that sequence of plays was. But yeah, I mean, disappointed. This was a terrible sequence here for the offensive line. You have the sack, obviously, and then the sack fumble. So just the offensive line, they have their good moments. I mean, later in the game, we'll talk about Havenstein having probably the block of the night. That block was just brutal. I believe it was in the fourth quarter. But yeah, this particular sequence definitely wasn't pretty for the O-line.
No, it definitely wasn't. Blaine, you're thinking of the one later on where Alan Bailey does force the fumble and then he catches it and runs in for a touchdown. This was actually the one where Dee Ford blew by Andrew Whitworth. And I was honestly, when I saw this, I was worried about Jared Goff's arm because it wasn't a normal strip sack where, he tries to throw and nothing's there. You can see his arm kind of gets knocked back and kind of dragged back because of Dee Ford's arm hitting it in kind of an awkward manner. And I was a little worried about that play in particular. But then, you couldn't have hit it on the head any better than that. I mean, John Johnson, if he doesn't make that tackle, we're talking, this could have been bad. This team has come back from 21 down in New Orleans, but let's remind everyone, they didn't win that game. So it's better to not get in that situation. And, as awesome as it was for them to come back, this was a different ball game. You could tell that tackle was huge. They give up that touchdown, sure, but then, that's not the end of the game. That the Chiefs do take the first lead of the game. They come back from down 10. The Rams do punt the next drive.
Yeah, the offense is definitely in a lull here. I mean, you have the three play. It starts up front with the offensive line. I mean, you have they obviously allowed 2 sacks there that include the fumble on that drive, and then this drive only 5 plays. There was a lull here, and in a game where you knew points were a premium, where you were going to need a lot of them. This lull here, this mental lull offensively by the Rams, it really could have put them in a bad spot, and they thankfully it didn't. But I mean, as a fan watching the game, I was concerned after that they have a very impressive first quarter, and then up to this point they have yet to score. They have yet to score in the second. Aside from that, I think they had a field goal right as the second quarter started. But yeah, I mean, this lull here that was definitely a little concerning.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I just to me, I think this drive in particular. When I go back and I look at it, I think, this is a drive that it starts off, they're from their own 10-yard line. And that was an issue because, you talk about the fact that there's a penalty on Ramik Wilson to start. And, that I was a little worrisome because, now the Rams are backed up at the 10-yard line. They just had the fumble, so you're like, oh boy, what's going to happen here? They're actually able to dig out of that situation. They do run it, with Todd Gurley, gets about 4 yards, which it just seemed like a pattern with him. If he got the ball, he wasn't really able to do much. The Chiefs, everyone knocks the Chiefs' defense as a whole, but I just don't think that's right. I think the misdirection here, the misplacement, is the fact it's their secondary. They actually have Allen Bailey, Xavier Williams, and we're not talking about one of the best defensive interior linemen in the league in Chris Jones, who just absolutely maul the run. And I still, I think they have some really nice players, Dee Ford, and of course Justin Houston, that play the run very well as Anthony Hitchens. So it wasn't a shock to me that, Gurley, who was banged up, wasn't really able to do his usual thing. I also don't think that the offensive line was really pushing anybody around during that time. Again, these are mammoths in the run defense, and I just don't think people gave them enough credit coming in.
No, I agree. I like just looking at the stats. I believe the Rams and Chiefs had allowed the worst and second worst yards per carry average in the NFL coming into this. So I expected Gurley to kind of get going, but definitely banged up. Didn't help at all. And like I said, I think the Chiefs kind of took what Seattle did at the Bear front, and that was something that the Rams had struggled with against Seattle. And I think they used that, and it did work again for them. But yeah, this role here definitely could have been bad for the Rams. But you go to the next Chiefs drive, and this was the play of the game. This is where the Rams, the Chiefs are starting to really gain momentum, and then Aaron Donald, the best player in the NFL, probably he had a couple good plays in this game, but this play here probably saved it early on for them. This stopped it from a bad situation getting worse into now the Rams stole the momentum back, and it's back in the Rams' favor.
The thing that is so crazy about this play, Blaine, is that this comes towards the end of the second. We're not even at the half yet. And, right now around this time, Kansas City's up 17-16. The Rams just punted. Jared Goff missed 2 throws after hitting a 20-yard strike to Brandon Cooks. They were looking like this was going to be another good drive. They were going to respond. And then he misses Cooks on a bouncer. That was kind of strange. And then he has Woods open on the right sideline and overthrows him. But then they punt it, and the unsung hero here is Johnny Hekker. Because Johnny Hekker in this game, he did not get enough credit. Tyreek Hill, I totally understand what he's trying to do. There were times, Blaine, where we punted to Tyreek Hill, and I saw Patrick Peterson flashbacks, I'm not going to lie. But Tyreek Hill was not a great returner in this game, and Johnny Hekker took advantage of it. This drive starts off with a Johnny Hekker punt, 55 yards, with around 4 minutes to go in the second quarter. Kansas City is now, it's going to be at the 6-yard line after Tyreek Hill takes it about 19 yards, and there's a legal block in the back. So now you're at the Kansas City 6. There's a 3-yard gain by Kareem Hunt. Patrick Mahomes, short pass to Tyreek Hill. It's 3rd and 1. And then there's kind of like a, you're hoping for a stop. You'd love to see the Rams get the ball back. There's around 3 minutes left. And they pass short right. Tyreek Hill gets out of bounds. 3rd and 1, they convert. And then 1st and 10, the Rams are able to stop Kareem Hunt. 2-minute warning hits. And right after that, Aaron Donald he comes out like a bat out of hell. And he hits Mahomes from behind. Ball comes flying out. And it almost goes out of bounds to the left sideline. But Samson Ebukam has the wherewithal to pick it up and run it back for a touchdown. And, man, that was huge because Ebukam really had to earn that. He's getting wrapped up before he even gets in the end zone and then basically trucks Mahomes, who was not a slouch by any means. just incredible awareness by Ibukam and just an incredible play by Aaron Donald, who, I mean, really, Aaron Donald just absolutely proved that he is the best player in the NFL as of right now in this game.
Yeah.
And I'll take this a step further, Blaine. We did talk about this briefly, over text. Todd Gurley may have lost his opportunity at MVP unfairly because, unfortunately with his injury in this game, I just feel like voters are going to be like, well, look at what Mahomes did against Todd Gurley. Or they might even look more towards Jared Goff. But I think Aaron Donald, if J.J. Watt received MVP votes that year because he caught a touchdown and he had 20 sacks, Aaron Donald right now is on pace to do just as much and just not catch a touchdown. So Aaron Donald, I think, in this game really showed people, if he hasn't already, why is he not in the MVP conversation? So that's all I'm going to say with that.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely bring up a point, and I mean, there were times early in this game, we're still early in this game, but earlier in this game, I believe it was on the touchdown from Mahomes to Hill. I think it was the first touchdown for Kansas City. Aaron Donald was a split second. You could see his arm coming around to hit Mahomes, and Mahomes had just gotten the ball out just in time. Where this could have been Donald's second strip sack, but I mean Mahomes gets the ball out in time. The touchdown is there to Tyreek Hill. If the coverage is there, Donald maybe gets there, but Mahomes does a good job of finding Hill open for the touchdown. But you come back here and Donald hits home, and Ebukam, who at Eastern Washington it seemed like he was one of those guys that he was always in the right place at the right time. He had a nose for the football in those situations, and here we are. The Donald comes around, his arm just comes in like a hammer. Just it comes down Mahomes' arm, ball flies out, and Ebukam's there to just scoop it up. And I mean, JB Long had a fantastic call on this play. Ebukam goes to the end zone, rolls over Mahomes, crossing over the goal line, and yeah, I mean, it was just amazing.
It was amazing. It was one of those, like, wow, you just didn't expect it to happen, but you could totally see it coming. And then the Chiefs now put in a bad position, on the road, 23-17, Rams take the lead, and we're now under 2 minutes. Chiefs have to, make something out of nothing. So they take the kickoff, with 150 left. And Tremont Smith was huge for them because he, makes it's a 34-yard return, and then really just some short passing here by Mahomes gets the first. You get 2 first downs, and that's the big one. 2nd and 5, Patrick Mahomes finds a wide open Travis Kelce, and he runs for 37 yards. It's now 31 seconds left, and Kansas City's going to take a timeout, and then Mahomes is going to scramble. And then after that, he's going to throw an incomplete pass. Rams take that timeout. And then it's 3rd and 4 at the Rams 8. And Patrick Mahomes, there was a point in that drive where, point during that play where I felt like, wow, they might actually, stop them. And then Chris Conley breaks out of the little hold that he was receiving in the middle of the end zone. And he high points the ball, catches a touchdown. He had a day. He had 2 touchdowns. This
defensive drive might have been the most disappointing for me in this football game. I mean, you just make a great play, literally minutes earlier, and you give your football team, you give your team a chance to really take control of this game, and to let the Chiefs go down as easily as they did, and less than, and the Chiefs got the ball back with 1:37 left. I mean, okay if they score, but try to contain them to a field goal if you can. And instead, they go down, and this 3rd and 4 play just boggles my mind. Like, I believe, if this is the sequence I'm thinking of, I believe the Chiefs originally had called one of those option plays, and it looked like maybe the Rams had initially stopped it, or they were there and were going to be able to stop it, and we get one of the infamous Sean McVay timeouts. that kills the play, and she's come back out of the timeout, and you've had time to think about this play, and instead of getting a stop or literally anything but a touchdown, the Chiefs convert and they get a touchdown on the same play. So I was disappointed in this play. I mean, Bucker misses the extra point to keep it a tie game, which was huge. But still, I was this kind of ended the half on a sour note for me after just experiencing probably the play of the game minutes earlier.
Well, Blaine, to me, you take that timeout if you're like, all right, we're going to stop them. Regardless, they're going to score. They're either kicking a field goal or a touchdown. And then we want to try and do something with the 20 to 10 seconds we have left. What irritates me is they not only give up a touchdown, but then, the kickoff comes and they take a knee. And to me, I hate that. What difference could it make? I mean, you have the offense that the Rams have. I think they could have gotten into field goal range and kicked a 60, Greg Zuerlein field goal range and tried a 67 or 66 yarder or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like, that I would have done. I wouldn't have just kneeled it. And especially when you're not getting the ball at the half. The Chiefs are now entering the half with the momentum, because I know they just tied it up, but they just basically, matched your fumble recovery. They just threw a touchdown. They drove on you. So, for me, if I'm the Rams there, I'm trying to do something. I'm not, I trust Jared Goff. I think that's the thing. McVay trusts Jared Goff a lot. I don't see why you would be worried about an interception or a turnover or something like that when you have this offense. I think they definitely should have done that, and then, put some heat on the Chiefs. Now, all of a sudden, you just had that drive and you score with 20 seconds to go. Well, we just kicked a field goal, 66 yards, and now it's 26-23, and the game could have been a little different. But then we go to the halftime, and Blaine, we're gonna take a moment to go over our overall takeaways of halftime. First off, for me, I'll just say this: I think that Samson Ebukam is starting to really develop. I've been a little wary about saying that this year. There have been times he's done an awful job of containing, setting the edge, but I'm starting to see more aggressiveness out of him. He seems like he's a step ahead, a tick ahead.
Let me ask you this, Jake. How much, I've been kind of thinking the same thing, and I was thinking about this yesterday after Ebukam had the game of he had his coming out party last night. How much do you think the Dante Fowler trade helped him? Because, up to this point, granted, you have Donald, Brockers, and Sue definitely gaining attention there from the offensive line. But when it comes to the outside, I'm not sure how many offensive lines really respected Matt Longacre. You replace Longacre with Fowler. That certainly that has to open up things for Ebukam on the other side, right? Like, if that trade helped anybody most, I would say it probably helped Ebukam.
I really agree with that. The thing I find funny is I think, when I look at Ebukam, I think he's somebody that can play. And you remember me saying this before anybody. I think he can play inside backer. So if the Rams, find something in Okoronkwo, or they want to use JFM, or they want to use Sue on the, they can, reevaluate everything at the, after the bye. If Barron's not cutting it, maybe you go with, a Kaiser or somebody like that, or a Hager. But I really think long term, Ebukam with his athleticism almost makes more sense as an inside backer next to Littleton, and then if you get something out of Okoronkwo, and then maybe you bring back Fowler. Then I really like the way that looks. Because I think right now, and I don't think anyone would disagree, Mark Barron that was one of my biggest takes. He was getting run over like he was nothing. And it's unfortunate. I wonder how much the injuries are really starting to affect him. Because he just hasn't looked the same. Last year he was 8th in run defense, by Pro Football Focus. He's somebody that's always been a playmaker. He hasn't really done anything this year except he's kind of been a liability in the run game, and obviously he can't really cover that well. So that's kind of my take.
I kind of agree. I would say that that I was honestly shocked when I brought him back this year because I believe he was the guy that they could have cut and really opened up some cap space without suffering too much dead money, if I'm remembering correctly. But they bring him back, I think, just because of his experience. And yeah, I mean, he's on the list of guys. He's on my list of guys that have underperformed this year. There's Lamarcus Joyner, there's Marcus Peters, and then Mark Barron is right up there as well. You obviously expect more from him. He's been in the system for over a year. He's a guy that has flourished. He's got to move from safety to linebacker because he's better in the box. Obviously, he's a smaller guy, which doesn't help, like you said, against the run, and is a big reason, I think, for why the Rams aren't very good against the run, because they are smaller there at the inside linebacker position, starting with Mark Barron. Yeah, I mean, I essentially agree with everything that you said on to a T. And I mean, getting back to this game, I mean, Rams are tied 23-23, and quite honestly, after the lull on offense where they weren't able to, they suffer the turnover, the Chiefs score off of, and then they're forced to punt the football after, and then I mean the Chiefs obviously they just went down and scored a touchdown. I honestly felt lucky that we were tied 23-23, and for the most part was pleased with that score line because it could have been, honestly, the score could have been a lot worse for both teams. I mean, had the Chiefs not shot themselves in the foot early on, I think the Chiefs could have really been up at this point, and had the Rams, score touchdowns instead of a field goal. I think they could have really been in control at this point. But for it to be tied, I felt like the Rams were in a good position and kind of felt lucky after the last 10 minutes of play.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do feel like 23-23 was more of a win for the Rams. And that's crazy to say that, but just the way things change so quickly, to get that turnover by Aaron Donald, the touchdown by Ebukam, because as you saw, with that field goal that we were, really ripping our hair over, just because the Rams are in the red zone does not mean they're going to score a touchdown. So I thought that was very imperative for Ebukam to get in the end zone. I thought that was just so important, and he was able to get it done, and it was just huge. I don't think we can, really overstate that. I don't really think we could state that enough. But what I look at, the end of the second quarter, the fumble, I think really what I overall what I really noticed, I mean, we were talking a little bit about it, but I noticed the secondary, Marcus Peters didn't play all that bad. He wasn't great, but he wasn't all that bad. Troy Hill, but here's the thing. You weren't going to be able to cover Tyreek Hill. You don't have anyone on your roster, even with Aqib Talib, able to cover Tyreek Hill. There are only a handful of players that can cover Tyreek Hill.
No, I agree. And I mean, honestly, especially in that second quarter, I believe Tyreek Hill finished the first half with 10 receptions for like 100 and some odd yards, or maybe it was a few receptions less. But he Mahomes picked on Sam Shields a lot, and what I didn't get was why wasn't Nickel Roby-Coleman on Tyreek Hill? Because like Hill was playing a lot from the slot, and that's where NRC loves to play. It's not where he loves to play. That's where he plays. That's his position. He plays slot corner. So I guess why are you putting a guy like Sam Shields, who he wasn't in the league last year, and you're putting him on the best wide receiver in the NFL, arguably.
It really blew my mind that Nickel wasn't out there, because I felt, and Pro Football Focus would tell you this, and the film shows you, Nickel is the best corner, and probably right up there with Aqib Talib. I mean, I said in the preview podcast, I'm sorry, I don't care about, Marcus Peters and how great he's supposed to be. I'm putting Nickel Roby-Coleman, the guy that I know is fast enough to cover Tyreek Hill. That's what I'm doing. Or I'm putting LaMarcus Joyner. Or I'm putting a Blake Countess. I am not putting Sam Shields. I mean, Sam Shields is fast, obviously. We know that. But Sam Shields, what's his biggest issue? It's his stamina. That's why he can't start. That's why he hasn't started this year. So I just felt like the Rams kind of got cute in that regard, where they didn't want to be so predictable because we all assumed that was going to be Troy Hill. And I just think it kind of burned them in a way. But I mean, then again, to be real, I don't think anyone was going to cover Tyreek Hill in this game. I just didn't see it. I expected a huge game. He had over 200 yards receiving on 10 catches. I mean, it's pretty much what I expected all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, same. I expected Tyreek Hill to have a big game, and Tyreek Hill had a big game. But I believe there was let's kind of get to the third quarter here. Wade Phillips has given the Space Jam Looney Tunes. He's given this defense the secret stuff, and he's sprinkled his magic second half adjustment dust on the defense. And I believe he'll go from having 8 or 9, I think it was 8 catches or so, or 7 catches in the first half to, I believe he only has 2 or 3 in the second half. So obviously Wade figures something out. But going right into the third quarter, the Rams made a statement in the first half on the first drive, and they do so once again on the first drive on defense here in the second half. I mean, your guy. I'll let you speak to me. Your guy JFM makes a huge play.
Well, the craziest thing about this play is that the play before it, Aaron Donald gets called for a penalty. And it's a penalty. Illegal hands to the face. I was all for it. I totally understood it. It's a penalty. The next play, Aaron Donald looked more pissed off than I've ever seen him. They're zooming in on his face, and he just looks mad to the core. And I look at my my family and my friend, and I'm like, something's coming. Aaron Donald breaks through with reckless abandon and nails Patrick Mahomes. Ball comes flying out, and I totally thought this was the Chiefs' recovery. So I thought, wow. So all that, and that was first down. So the Chiefs will somehow, convert this, so it's not even going to matter. Then, big guys, what have we been told by many? The big guys fall on it, small guys pick it up and run, little guys run, fat guys jump on it, and, Well, the Chiefs didn't get that memo because you had the entire offensive line trying to pick up the ball and run with it. Ball squirts away, and JFM, friend of the podcast, John Franklin Myers, man, I was so happy for him. He makes a huge play, just as huge, probably, Blaine, I'll make the argument it's just as huge as the play against the Vikings. I mean, he ends the game against Minnesota with that forced fumble. That play right there, for him to run all the way over there and recover that football, like I said, I assumed that they were going to convert a first down. I assumed that would probably be a scoring drive. I didn't really have confidence in the defense because the defense instilled no confidence in us for us to believe in them. At the end of that, I mean, they had just given up a touchdown within 2 minutes to go. So, yeah, I didn't really believe in them, at that point, and Donald forces the fumble, and I'm like, they're going to pick it up, and it's just going to be a Chiefs touchdown on this drive. But Franklin Myers recovers this ball, and it changes everything, because now you just changed the game. The Rams, they took the ball first, the Chiefs deferred, The Chiefs literally turned the ball over on their first possession, therefore deferring literally led to nothing. It actually hurt you. So we move on, and the Rams, next drive, right after the fumble recovery, it's an 8-play, 46-yard touchdown. And it goes to not Tyler Higbee. It goes to it's a Jared Goff run. And the thing, I liked a lot on this. I liked a lot on this drive because they did, that quick, the quick. What was it? The screenplay.
Let's talk about this too. So many times this year when the Rams have gone for it on the fourth down, it's been a crazy fake punt, which I'm all for. You have the most dynamic punter in the NFL. You might as well utilize it. But 4th and 1 from the Kansas City 37, you have a kicker that can easily make that field goal. I hate to say easily because that's still a 54-yard field goal, but that's well within Greg Zuerlein's range. You could easily just say, hey, we'll take the points, we'll go up, and we'll be fine. But he doesn't. Sean McVay goes for it, and the Chiefs get a holding penalty on the play, but Goff to Higbee for 70 yards converts it, and I think that was just a huge play on that drive. You could have easily just taken the points, but McVay instills the confidence in his offense to go for it in that situation, and it pays off huge.
That was a huge play that doesn't, because that's all or nothing there. If they, it's like the Chiefs, no harm, no foul. Mahomes, he fumbled, and John Franklin Myers picked it up, and the Rams had the ball. Well, they didn't get any points out of it. That was not to be. The Rams do convert the fourth down, and then Jared Goff on 3rd and goal at the Chiefs 7-yard line. You really start to see. The interesting thing about this is Brandon Cooks is still out. So you have that element of your offense out. He's being worked on in the locker room or whatever. KhaDarel Hodge, on a huge drive, Sean McVay throws out KhaDarel Hodge, had the faith in him. He actually catches a short pass, kind of sliding catch for 3 yards that kind of sets him up for a 3rd and goal at the 7. And Goff, he could have forced it, but man, he looked fast. That was such a decisive play, and just his ability, to see that, look, guys are covered. I need to run, get this touchdown. It's all about the touchdown here. He gets it. It's now 30-23, and the Rams punch it in and really make do with that turnover.
Yeah, that's a huge sequence. You're 3rd and goal from the 7. That's not an easy conversion by any means. And you just went for it earlier in 4th and 1 to avoid kicking a field goal, and here you are 3rd and goal, and you miss it. You don't convert here. You're probably kicking a field goal, which was what you were trying to do earlier, and instead Rams convert on a huge 3rd down play, and it's all because of Jared Goff. He rolls to his right, sees a hole, cuts inside, and I don't think I've ever seen Jared Goff run faster in my entire life. He looked like Lamar Jackson on this play. Just took off sprinting, and nobody even touched him.
Yeah, and then the next drive, Kansas City comes right back with an 8-play, 64-yard drive. Takes about almost 4 minutes. It was one of their longer drives, and this was a little worrisome because early on this drive, Ethan Westbrooks is actually injured on the play on 2nd down, and he was big in this game. I don't think people realize that. He actually Mutombo'd Patrick Mahomes later on. You know what I'm talking about with the everyone thought it was a fumble, but he played well, and in this drive, really, the Rams get some stops, but they can't get to 3rd down, and the Chiefs are able to they basically drive down the field, but I just think Travis Kelce, man, these tight ends haven't really followed the pattern of what we expected with Jared Cook, what he did to the Rams week 1. But Travis Kelce had 2 huge plays. This is a 33-yard play on 2nd and 10. And that sets up a 1st and goal. I mean, you can't allow that. And Travis Kelce is able to get, the first down and a lot more. Sets up for a short Travis Kelce touchdown. And now you're looking at 30-30. And all of a sudden, we're back and it's tied. And it's turning into an instant classic.
Yeah, definitely. And, I mean, the next drive, Rams get a field goal. But there's one play on this drive that I want to talk about, and it's the last offensive play. The both teams just exchanged touchdowns. Kansas City's offense is explosive. But here you are, 3rd and 9 from the 20. And McVay, I love him to death because he's aggressive in situations. He always is playing aggressively. He doesn't, he won't. He's the complete opposite of what we've seen from Rams offensive play callers for the last 15 years. But here on this third and 9, I mean, yes, it's a long 3rd down, but you go a draw play to Todd Gurley, like. I don't know. That seems very conservative to me. I don't think it was the right play call. It just I don't know. It seemed like you were just giving up and selling for the field goal at that point with that play call. I mean, they had success later on with the short passes to Brandon Cooks on the outside that would go for 8 or 9. I think you could have dialed up crosses over the middle and to maybe hit Robert Woods for 11 or 12 yards. But I think a draw play, I don't know. I was not a huge fan of it.
Neither was I, man. I remember us texting each other like, what? Just no. Like, you can't do that. That's too conservative. 3rd and 11 at the Kansas City 34. The Rams convert. They get to Brandon Cooks. And then you're talking 1st and 10, and Malcolm Brown is gobbled up in the backfield, but is able to spin his way for 4 yards. We're talking 2nd and 6 now at the 17-yard line. And Jared Goff gets sacked by Chris Jones. And, I mean, that was kind of a huge play for the Chiefs because the Rams really had their way on this drive. They did a nice job of really putting this together and, getting this field goal. But like you mentioned, I mean, now it's 3rd and 9 after that sack. And obviously Goff can't take that sack, but 3rd and 9, and then it's Todd Gurley up the middle. And like you mentioned, I'm glad you mentioned it. Why a draw? Todd Gurley is averaging close to, it's around 8 yards per carry on outside zone runs. That is pretty much the majority of his runs. That's where he does his damage. And they run a draw. Where basically, like Sean McVay, and we mentioned this earlier, Sean McVay said today during the press conference, they were playing the run. They were respecting Todd Gurley. They were daring us to throw. And you barely ran all game. And then, 3rd and 9, and you're going to run a draw. I totally agree with you. Way too conservative. And this is one of those things where if they lose this game, this play right here really is going to be embedded in your mind because it pissed you off at the time, and it kind of pisses me off talking about it right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those plays you go back to, but thankfully, Samson Ebukam was ready to party last night because he was coming out. Just once again, right place, right time. Ebukam picks off Mahomes. I believe he was looking for a short 3-play. I believe it was intended for Harris, but yeah, it's intercepted by Ebukam instead, and he takes it back 25 yards for a touchdown. Like that's just another that went from if the Chiefs have a chance here to take momentum in this football game. The Rams they settle for a field goal. It's 33-30, and I mean you're nearing the end of the third quarter. Chiefs score a touchdown here, and they're in control heading into the fourth quarter. And instead, Samson Ebukam comes up with probably the play of the game here. Picks off Mahomes, takes it 25 yards the other way for a touchdown.
Yeah, it's like that play, Blaine, I wasn't even ready for the play. I blinked and Ibukam was running with it. And I'm like, what? Like, what happened? And you see it in slow motion, you're like, that's a phenomenal play, but what was Mahomes doing? He throws completely flat-footed, doesn't get any drive off his back foot or his front foot, doesn't really throw the ball with any accuracy at all. It was a weird play, and Ibukam bats it with one hand while he's being engaged in a block, and then basically uses his other hand to pick it off. It was like a one-handed interception. Very impressive by Ibukam in what was totally a career day for him. And, I mean, I've never seen a defensive player have 2 touchdowns. But this game, this is another, the next play, or rather the next drive, it's a 3-play drive. I mean, it's a simple 3 and out. And
yeah. And this is like what I said earlier. The Rams had so many opportunities to really take this game and run with it. This game should not have been a 3-point game. Like, the Rams really easily could have won this game by double digits. The defense, they have a huge drive with Ebukam with the interception, with the pick 6, and then they force a 3 and out, and then the offense has been moving the ball, and then all of a sudden, you have a huge holding penalty on your most reliable offensive lineman, Andrew Whitworth. And they're at the Kansas City 42-yard line. Like, you are in a position to, you're at a good spot on the field, and Whitworth takes a holding penalty, and that really changed the drive. That allowed Kansas City later on to come back and take the lead, because if this doesn't turn into a 1st and 20, and then 1st and 20, you had the 10-yard sack, and then you had the holding, so I guess it was 2nd and 30. Sorry. So the Rams go from being literally 7 yards away from being in a field goal position to being all the way back on their side of the field. That sequence of plays really changed the complexion of this game.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And the craziest thing is this drive starts off, Todd Gurley, we talked about earlier, 4 yards per carry. Like, I mean, it was literally 4-yard run, 4-yard run, 4-yard run when they decided to run with him, and it wasn't often. But then he breaks out a 24-yard run that puts them at the Kansas City 42. And then Jared Goff dumps it off to Todd Gurley. Gurley gets 11 yards, and you're thinking, wow, now this is a play. And then, that comes back with the holding, and it's like the Rams kind of go, they kind of go into a shell for, 1st and 20 at their 48 now, not across the midfield, and Jared Goff gets sacked by Chris Jones again, and it's another holding by Andrew Whitworth, who now back-to-back plays gets absolutely destroyed. Obviously, it's declined because it's now 2nd and 30. And Goff goes deep. He has Brandon Cooks, and he underthrows him.
If Goff hits Goff has up and down moments. They're mostly up, but he missed his share of throws. This is one where if he hits Cooks, they have a good chance to convert the 3rd down, I believe, or set up for being in field goal position. But yeah, he's slight. I think Cooks could have made the catch, but he does slightly underthrow him, which obviously makes it very difficult for Cooks. But the Rams were very close to going from 2nd and 30 to being in a position to convert.
But I'll say this right now: this was right after the hit that Goff got, because Chris Jones gets the sack, but there were a bunch of guys that hit him afterwards, and there was one guy that came in helmet to helmet. I mentioned it earlier. I just really had a feeling, and obviously it's not the case, but Blaine, didn't you think Goff might have been concussed? I mean, I was a little worried. And then
I didn't have any concerns, and maybe I just didn't watch the play close enough. It looked like he got it fine to me. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, he did get hit hard by about 3 Chiefs offensive linemen.
And then, he's down and he gets up, and man, he's struggling to get up. He's on both knees, kind of putting his fists in the dirt, gets up, and the next play, it's like he throws a pass that he never would have thrown. So I wonder, that probably had something to do with it, where, something was off with him. And then, Todd Gurley up the middle for 2 yards. I mean, that's kind of just giving it away. That's kind of, conceding that, the Chiefs, they beat us on that drive. They were able to, get to draw the holding, and then they get a 10-yard sack on Jared Goff. I mean, that was vital for them.
I mean, this is really a changing point in the game. The Rams have an opportunity on this side, like you mentioned, like I mentioned. You're at the Kansas City 42-yard line. You're in. To me, that when the Rams are on the other side of the 50, they have an opportunity to score, and instead you're punting it from you end up punting it from your 40-yard line, and then we'll talk about it more in depth, but then. Tyreek Hill scores a long 73-yard touchdown because I believe Shields fell and LaMarcus Joyner was nowhere to be found at safety. And then you have the sack fumble touchdown that the Rams go from being up by 10 and in position to go up 13 to if they score a touchdown, 17 points. That's a 3-score game, and instead you remain only up by 10, and within the first 4. The Rams were up by 10 points going into the fourth quarter, and within the first 4 minutes, the Rams were trailing.
I know it was it's pretty nuts. But that Tyreek Hill play, that's just I just felt like that was poor scheming. I mean, I just don't know why there wasn't a guy, over the top. I mean, there was no help.
I mean, I think LaMarcus Joyner was supposed to be, but we saw it, I think, multiple times in a football game where Joyner would get misled by Mahomes' eyes and follow his eye. Like, I believe Mahomes was able to maneuver Joyner with his eyes pretty easily in this football game, and so I believe they were playing a cover one in this situation, if I'm remembering the play correctly. So you have Joyner over the top, but Mahomes moves him with his eyes, Shields falls, and you have the fastest guy in the NFL running straight. Like, that's just a combination for disaster.
Oh, yeah. That had big play announcing, everyone flipping out, written all over it, really. I mean, that was, we expected that. I just didn't expect it to take that long for that type of play to not happen. So, that ends up being, now it's 40-37. Kansas City answers the bell after both defenses kind of trade shots with 2 punts back-to-back. And then here comes the scary moment in the game where you have Tyreek Hill on that play, whatever he did, he got a taunting penalty. And then, of course this had to happen, Justin Lawler gets hit with an offensive holding, and it's, of course, enforced at the 25-yard line, so the Rams are back behind the 20-yard line, and you never want to be back there.
Yeah, no, you don't. Not at all. And then, I mean, disaster happens. I saw people saying Goff held the ball too long. I'm not sure how much of this you can put on Jared Goff. The entire pocket just
it caved on him.
There's nowhere for him to step up. So I'm not sure where people are saying Goff needs to step up. There's nowhere for him to step up. If he steps up, he's literally stepping up into a defender and his offensive lineman. Whitworth is beat terribly on the edge, and Havenstein isn't faring much better on the other side. Like, I literally don't think anybody on the offensive line blocks anybody on this play because, yeah, it was not a great look, and I'm not sure where people are seeing that this was on Goff because I'm not sure where he's supposed to get rid of the ball.
I hear you. But I think this all could have been kind of avoided a little bit anyway. 2nd and 11 at the 14-yard line. Goff's in the shotgun. He has Woods. He overthrows Woods. And that gets them out of harm's way. That gets them out of Death Valley. And I think, even if that fumble happens, it's not a touchdown. The Rams have a chance to stop them on defense and avoid that brutal. I mean, that was crushing. I mean, the fourth quarter just starts. And Allen Bailey gets the strip sack and gets the fumble. It was the worst case scenario for the Rams to allow the Chiefs to score that quickly.
I mean, you saw Mahomes' expression on the sideline. Like, that play happened, and he was hyped. Like, Mahomes was very excited that the Chiefs had taken the lead. They were in control of the football game.
Absolutely. I mean, they were absolutely in control, and that makes it 44-40. So the Rams have to come back out. So they decide to go 75 yards, 6 plays. You have Todd Gurley run.
Let's just talk about this too for a second. Is at this point during this drive there's less than 10 minutes left of this football game, and if I'm remembering the stat correctly, I do not believe Jared Goff had ever thrown a touchdown pass while trailing. Maybe I'm misremembering the stat wrong, but there was something about him not throwing a touchdown pass while trailing with under 10 minutes to go or something, and he threw 2 in this football game. It started here, or maybe it's just down by 1 score. It was something crazy like that. I've been waiting throughout Jared Goff's career for him to have a game-winning type drive and to take control while his team is trailing by a touchdown to go down and score. And it started on this drive. I mean, he was really, after the fumble, he was flawless in my opinion. Like, Jared Goff did not miss a throw. He threw some beauties. The pass to Josh Reynolds that went for 27 yards was huge. Once again, Josh Reynolds coming up big, stepping up in that Cooper Kupp type role. And then he maybe underthrows Robert Woods on the long pass. I think if he hits Woods in stride, it's a touchdown. But still a great play nonetheless. And then you cap it off with the touchdown on 3rd and goal with Gerald Everett, who ends up being the hero in these last 10 minutes.
This was insane to me because Robert Woods, I mean, we saw this in the playoff game, that diving catch that he made against the Falcons. You're like, oh my God, the Rams have a number 1 receiver. I mean, it's Robert Woods. It's not Sammy Watkins. It's not the guy they gave up a 2nd-round pick for. It's Robert Woods. And that catch right there, that tells you, I mean, they have a number 1 receiver in Cooks. Robert Woods is definitely a number 1 receiver. He's one of the best in the game, and that was just such a great adjustment by him to basically turn all the way around, realize that Goff underthrew the ball, and make a sliding, diving, I don't really know what you would call it, grab. I mean, it was incredible. And that was key because, I mean, he literally has to contort his body to catch that 36-yard pass, and Goff underthrew him, but he bailed Goff out. That was a catch, and then that allows them, I mean, he misses them on the out route, on 1st and goal, and then he misses them towards the right on 2nd, but then 3rd and goal, that doesn't happen without Robert Woods making that play. I mean, that was a huge play, but it was also a huge play for Josh Reynolds on 2nd and 5, catching 27-yard grab. I thought he did a nice job against Steven Nelson on that, but Gerald Everett, I mean, this is now all of a sudden you're starting to see a guy who, started off last year like, very, very explosive, but wasn't given a ton of opportunities. He just made the most of the minor opportunities. He started to get phased out of the playbook, and mainly because, from what I heard, is that he wasn't, grasping the plays and everything. This year, off season, he has the shoulder injury. Kind of makes him an afterthought for a little bit. Fans literally forget about him. And then now Gerald Everett's starting to become one of the better tight ends in football, honestly. I'm going to tell you that right now because, at least the weapons, because right now he's listed number 3 by Pro Football Focus, just because he doesn't get the type of snaps that, an O.J. Howard or George Kittle or, Travis Kelce gets, does not mean he wouldn't be right up there with those guys. George Kittle's my guy, and you know that. But I'll say Gerald Everett's really impressing me right now. He is in uncharted territory, and he could end up being the best tight end in Rams history, which, I mean, right now I'd say it's Pete Holohan, but the Rams really are dying to have a tight end, and I think you saw it. We'll mention it, moving on, obviously, throughout these 10 minutes in the game, but Gerald Everett was huge in this one.
Yeah, he was. He came up big there, for sure, and he'll come up big again later. But, something very, very, very rare in this game was not only did we have 1 3-and-out, but we had back-to-back 3-and-outs, which was just, like, once again, the defense comes up big for the offense, and Jared Goff throws an incomplete pass to the right, and then he throws to Cooks, who comes up just short of the first down. I mean, that was kind of funny going 3-and-out, especially when you once again have a chance to take control of the football game late, and they just weren't able to do it. They go 3-and-out, and Kansas City scores on the next drive to once again take the lead.
Yeah, and the first 3-and-out by the Chiefs, I mean, it didn't even look like Kelsey tried on a 3rd and 3 that was pivotal. I mean, you really, there's no way any Rams fan could have told me that they totally knew that the Chiefs were going to 3-and-out on that drive. You expected them to come right back and answer. I mean, the Rams scored touchdowns 47-44, and now you're like, okay, the Chiefs are going to come, and this is going to be a back and forth, little shootout. But no, they punt 3-and-out, and then the Rams 3-and-out, like you said. And the thing about this is that they go with the jet sweep that they really didn't use a lot in this game, and it goes nowhere. It's almost as if the Chiefs were just ready for it the whole game. And, I mean, they're the only team I've seen because the Rams have used that all year long, and it hasn't really been stopped the way it was. But 1st and 10, they go with the jet sweep to Brandon Cooks, and he gets nothing. And then 2nd and 10, Jared Goff, passing incomplete. And then 3rd and 10, it's short right to Cooks. And Cooks, I would say, I don't know if he got the first down, Blaine, but I didn't like the spot. Regardless, it's a 4th and 1. Hecker punts it, and it's a 40-yard punt to Kansas City 35, and that's what happens when you 3-and-out that far. When you 3-and-out back that far down the field, you really put your punter in a rough situation.
Yeah, definitely. Just a rough sequence of plays there, and I also didn't. I don't think he made the first down, but I definitely thought he was spotted about a half yard short, or a half yard from where I thought he was down. But for some reason, the Rams keep on getting on the wrong side of these spots, and at some point, hopefully in the Super Bowl, they end up like getting on the right side of it. But for now, they just keep on getting short balled. But yeah, I mean, next drive, Kansas City goes down, and they Mahomes finds calmly coming across for a touchdown to take the lead. And at this point now, I mean, you are at, I think, a little over 2 minutes left to go in this football game. You got Sean McVay has surprisingly, I say this sarcastically, used all of his timeouts. So it's literally touchdown or bust on this next Rams drive. Yeah,
it is. And by the way, I do want to bring something up. 2nd and 8, obviously they get that 14-yard pass to, Robinson, Demarcus Robinson. And then Patrick Mahomes throws a short pass to Demetrius Harris, who basically lowers his head and helmet to helmets Troy Hill, who's in just the worst possible situation in that play that you could be. I mean, he was on the end of like a rhino because you had Troy Hill, who was coming over late, and then you had Demetrius Harris, who's basically running with a head full of steam, hits him helmet to helmet, and they were really talking about, calling that, on the offense this year, and if the offense initiates the contact. I just think they got this call, absolutely wrong. And, I mean, that's a 10-yard penalty there. Los Angeles 23, it's now at the 10, and Chris Conley gets the touchdown. What were your thoughts on that? Because, I mean, I was furious. They're still giving up the touchdown, but that just bothered me.
Yeah, same. Like, I was seeing a lot of comments on Twitter even today that, the NFL put together this all-star officiating crew, and yet there were some questionable calls. And for the most part, up until this point, I was pretty complacent with the officiating. I thought it was pretty good. The penalties.
Totally agree.
The penalties were skewed towards Kansas City, but they were legit penalties. It's not like Kansas City was getting called for these tic-tacky penalties and the Rams were just not getting called for anything. No, Kansas City was getting called for legit stuff, and the Rams, they usually play clean, and last year was an anomaly, and this was them back to the norm. This penalty, Harris lowers his head, and they called lowering the head to initiate contact on Hill. It's just the NFL needs to look at this rule, and it needs to be called both ways, because what's Troy Hill supposed to do? Like,
I don't know, get out of the way.
The offensive player lowered his head. Like, it's unbelievable. Like, to call that penalty, that absurd of a penalty in this situation was, it was really the only questionable call tonight, and the only call that I really didn't agree with. But Chiefs scored a touchdown to go back up and take the lead, and now it's time for Jared Goff, number 16, to go and lead his team to victory.
Yeah, and that past drive, I will mention the Chiefs shave off 3 minutes and 46 seconds. It was exactly what they needed. 8 plays, 65 yards. Pressure's on Jared Goff. Can he step up? Former number 1 overall pick, former 0-7 quarterback that everyone won't get over. But, man, Jared Goff came to play when the bright lights in LA were shining. Jared Goff on the last play, the last drive, you have the regular touchbacks. The Rams are going to start the 25. Thank God they didn't throw a flag. They're not in Death Valley. So Jared Goff has nothing. It looks like it's basically just a Blaine, what would you say, like, the first drive? Because it seemed to me that the first play of this drive was just a quarterback run. It was designed for Goff. He didn't even really make any read whatsoever, and he got a yard. But was that the play, do you think? Because that's what I thought, and I was surprised.
I doubt that was the call. I don't see why Sean McVay with 2.5 minutes left of the football game would design a run for Jared Goff. I don't. I like the play is so I don't have the Sean McVay photographic memory, so this play is one of those plays that just kind of blends in with all the other meaningless plays. So I honestly don't even quite recall it all that well. Other than the play sheet that I'm looking at that says Jared Goff scrambles to the middle to LA 26 for 1 yard, tackled by D Ford. I don't have a high recollection of the play, but I doubt McVay would call a design run for Goff. I mean, he did have the touchdown earlier, but still in the situation, I just don't see it.
Maybe it was Jared Goff's alter ego, Lamar Jackson.
yes. But yeah, I mean, later on the drive, 3rd and 9, Goff finds Cooks, and Cooks takes it 22 yards to LA 48. Then hits Gerald Everett. The tight ends can't big in this game. Started there with Gerald Everett. Hits Higbee to bring us to a 2-minute warning, and then this play to you heard him talk about. You heard Everett talk about it later. He basically, they knew the coverage. They saw the coverage. They were in the huddle, and Goff kind of gives. Everett said that Goff kind of gave him a look, and he knew the ball was coming to him. It was Everett on the I believe it was a safety came down to play the corner in that spot, and so you knew it was man. You knew it was 1-on-1, and all Everett had to do was beat him, and he beat him. Had a couple steps on him. Goff throws a beautiful pass, hits him in stride. Everett makes a conscious effort to tiptoe the sideline. He doesn't run out. He tiptoes the sideline and scores a touchdown. It was just when that play happened, I was like, it's midnight on the East Coast at this point. I live on the 3rd floor of my apartment. I'm pretty sure my second floor neighbor was not happy with the amount of noise me jumping on my floor. He was like hearing coming from his ceiling. So, and then my neighbors down the hall weren't happy with me because I was screaming. But yeah, no, this play was just ridiculous.
Oh my God, it really was. My phone was about to die, so I plugged it in like you told me to, and I'm standing over by the outlet because, of course, nothing can be convenient. You can't have it near your couch, so I have it. I'm standing in the kitchen, and I could see it. Through I have like a breakfast bar area, and I could see the TV through that area. So I'm watching it, and my friend and my family, they're gathered around. I'm watching it, and Jared Goff, when he launched that, I was like, that's the most perfect ball I've ever seen. I mean, that ball is so perfectly thrown, and I see Gerald Everett underneath it. I'm like, oh my God. And Gerald Everett, I saw 2 games last year, 2 Rams games. It was the Redskins game, he had a 40-plus yard play, and then I saw the game against the Giants, he had a 40-plus yard play. And I'm going to say this right now. The Giants game, Evan Ingram caught a touchdown for the Giants. They didn't do much. I mean, we were there. They didn't do much. But Evan Ingram looks good. Gerald Everett has already surpassed Evan Ingram to me. This was a big boy superstar-like play. You have to make this catch. You don't have to score a touchdown, though. But he gets it done. The balance, the wherewithal to stay in bounds. Oh man, it was phenomenal. And you knew that they scored a little too early, but you were just happy they scored because that, I've seen Jared Goff try to come back in a game. The Redskins game, he missed Robert Woods wide open in the end zone, then threw it late, and they had to settle for a field goal, and they were still down. And, it just, then he throws the game-losing interception against the Redskins. I saw that in person, so, I have yet to really see Jared Goff step up in that situation, deliver. I'm not saying he hasn't, because he probably has. It's just against this type of team. I just haven't seen it, like you mentioned earlier. And I was like, wow. This was a huge moment for both of these young guns. Jared Goff from the 2016 class, Gerald Everett from 2017. It's almost as if Gerald Everett has more pressure because he's the second-round pick that everyone felt like they reached on. And whether that's fair or not, Everett is starting to develop. This is a huge play in the game, and the Rams go up 54-51. And then the next drive, I mean, this next drive, to Sean McVay's surprise, Andy Reid has kept all 3 of his timeouts. So not only did the Rams score fast, the Chiefs, they only need 3 points, and they have 1:44 to get down the field. I legit thought that I thought Kansas City was going to drive down the field and score a touchdown here. I really did, but this was Samson Ebukam's day, and this was he hit the trifecta on this play because earlier he had the fumble recovery, then he had the interception, and here he forces interception because he lit up Mahomes Mahomes had Kelsey. Like he talked about after the game, Mahomes said he had Kelsey. He was disappointed he got hit because he was going to hit Kelsey and it was going to be a big play. And Ebukam hits him, the ball floats, and who's there other than Marcus Peters there to what I thought was clinch the win. How storybook? Just the writers decided to butcher it and not have that be the game-winning interception, but it was still so storybook that it'd be Marcus Peters. Oh my God, I was ecstatic. Everyone in the house was ecstatic. It was a crazy play because right before that, I want to mention 3rd and 10. The Rams really are in a good spot here. 3rd and 10 at the Kansas City 26. And Mahomes throws deep down the right sideline, and it's a ball that I felt was up for grabs.
Yeah. Sam Shields, he was there just a split second late, and I mean I think you have to credit Tyreek Hill for the catch because A, it's a tough catch. B, like
how do you keep his feet in bounds? I mean that was insane.
Yeah, exactly. But Shields' hand was like in between Hill's arm while he was catching the ball, and so I mean Shields was there to make a play on the ball. Like he was there to like at least to break it up. Had he been there a split second earlier, he probably could have made a play for the interception. But he was there for the breakup, and Hill just made he had strong hands and was able to hold onto the ball and made a great catch on the sideline.
Yeah, and that's huge because now, you know, the Rams get that interception and now they can end the game. But wait,
but let's talk about this sequence of plays. Oh my gosh, I have never been more upset at Sean McVay in my entire life. Like, I mean, there's, I don't know. The first pass, I mean, first you have to false start at Andrew Whitworth, who had a terrible game in my opinion. So you go from 1st and 10 to 1st and 15, but then, I mean, you hit Jared Goff goes to Robert Woods on the outside, and Woods, he literally has to fall to stay in bounds. I mean, he was literally a half step from running out of bounds because of just where the route was being ran. So luckily he doesn't go out of bounds there. But then, I get Todd Gurley is hurt, but you have the best running back in the game, and you need 10 yards. Like, you paid Todd Gurley all this money so that he can be your closer. And I know his ankle wasn't 100%, but you have to give him the ball, and you have to give him the ball in this situation. And I mean, to go 3 straight passes, I mean, the next play, you have the incomplete pass, and that stops the clock. That's huge. I mean, there's still time left for Kansas City. All they need is a field goal. And, I mean, you're basically helping them there with the incomplete pass. And then you go after the incomplete pass, you go a third straight pass. And, I mean, thankfully it's caught, so the clock continues to run. But this sequence, I mean, I want to be aggressive, but there's a time to be aggressive and a time to just have Kansas City use their timeout so they have none left. And that was this time. And this sequence just infuriated me. If you couldn't tell.
Oh yeah. To me, it's pretty simple. Oh, Todd Gurley can't go. Put in Malcolm Brown. They weren't able to stop Malcolm Brown. I mean, you have to run the clock because I just can't believe, you know, after they got that interception, it blew my mind that they didn't run the clock out. Like, I was stunned that they didn't just run the ball. Stunned. I would have understood if it got to 3rd down and they wanted to play action and then win the game that way. But, man, I was absolutely stunned, and then they have to punt it. And that puts them in a rough situation. But Johnny Hekker kicks it to the -2 yard line because this is in the end zone.
I don't know why Tyreek Hill touched this punt. I have no idea.
I don't know either. But the thing is,
it was beautiful. It was a bomb.
Hekker did it because he knew Tyreek Hill was going to catch it.
Yeah.
He was baiting him. So, of course, Hill runs it out, gets 14 yards, and we're at the Kansas City 12, where Patrick Mahomes, it's a 4-play, 14-yard drive because 54-51, Mahomes trying to be the hero and win this game. Well, first play, incomplete. Kelsey, nice coverage. 2nd and 10, pass to Kelsey again. John Johnson, he had some decent coverage, but Kelsey makes the play. So it's 3rd and 2. Mahomes delivers a strike to Chris Conley to get that first down. Chiefs have to call a timeout. 25 seconds remaining. This probably shouldn't have even been possible because if they run, as you can see, 25 seconds remaining. If they ran 2 runs, they probably don't have a timeout. The Chiefs probably don't have a timeout, and the clock's ticking.
Yeah.
But on 1st and 10, the Rams step up. Kansas City 26-yard line. Mahomes throws a bomb, and it's
was that Ebukim on the pressure, or was it Fowler?
It was Ebukam again. But the problem is, Ebukam makes a mistake. He kind of just goes for it all. You really just need to wrap up there. But he goes for the big impact play, the big impact sack, and he misses.
Yeah.
And Mahomes rolls to the right. He fires. Everyone at home that's a Rams fan and Chiefs fan is gasping. I mean, they have no idea. You don't know. They didn't show. The camera took a little bit to get over there. And then you see right underneath it, LaMarcus Joyner, and that's your ball game. Rams win 54-51. And, I mean, I don't think we can stress it enough. The greatest regular season game you'll ever watch.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I mean, like I believe Trent Dilfer had a tweet out saying how it was a bad game because there was no defense. Both teams scored 50 points. There were turnovers, penalties. Like this game had it all. It had the storyline. It had. I mean, to say that there. I mean, yeah, both defenses allowed 50 or more points, but I think that's more of a credit to the offenses than the defenses because. I mean, the defenses scored 21 points. Like, there were 3 defensive touchdowns. Like I get wanting to knock the defense, but their defense did make an impact in this football game. It was just, the team was incredible. I'm glad the Rams came out on the right side of it. I'm so glad the bye is next week because I don't know how you would recover from this game if, like, on a short week. Like, if the Rams played the Lions next week, I would probably mark the Lions up for a win because there was just so much emotion and adrenaline. I believe McVay said like he had friends over to his house last night, and I mean essentially at his press conference he said he got essentially zero sleep. So the players will have a week to rest, which is great to go into the home stretch, and hopefully we lock up the second bye and they'll get to rest again in 5 weeks.
Yeah, it was a must win. Honestly, you get to this point, it's like the 18 inning baseball game. If you don't win, what was the point of fighting for 18 innings? You are just going to absolutely feel it the next day, and a lot of the times that you see it. But man, this was a huge win. This is something that really just escalates the momentum. This is the most points scored in quite some time for the Rams, even more than the 52-0 game that they had against the Raiders back in the Fisher era. But it's an incredible game. It's one of it's the biggest game in McVay's career because I mean I said this. It's weird, but it was almost like it was bigger than the playoff game that the Rams had. I mean, just from the get-go, the energy was different. The playoff game was fun, but
from what I heard, like the atmosphere was comparable to when the Rams returned to LA, and when I was at that game, and it was incredible. And if that was the atmosphere last night, the Rams definitely had a home field advantage, which is great to hear and see.
Which now really makes them want to fight for that. I mean, now it's kind of out of their hands. It's one of those unfortunate things, Blaine, because while they went 8-0 before they lost their first game, they just happened to play the Saints as they're peaking. And I might make the argument they're peaking too early because they did lose their game early on in the year against the Buccaneers. And man, they're a cocky bunch out there. I mean, you saw them. 4th and 6, they go for a bomb, against the Eagles, up 38-7. I don't know. It just, it's.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though too is that the Rams have 4 games left. Saints have 5 games left, I believe. Or I guess, sorry, the Rams have 5 games left. Saints have 6 games left. I think. If I'm I'm too tired to do the math at this point. But anyway,
you're right.
I was right. Okay, so the but I believe like 3 of the final 6 opponents for the Saints have winning records. They play Carolina twice. I mean, the Saints did beat Carolina 3 times last year, but division games on the road are never easy. They played Tampa Bay on the road. They lost Tampa Bay earlier this year. There's definitely opportunity for the Saints to lose. Again, who knows if they will? I mean, they are playing like the best team in football right now. So they could very easily go 15-1. The Rams, they have the toughest game left on their schedule is the Bears. That will be an interesting game because the Rams haven't played a defense like that this year. And on the road in December in Chicago definitely won't be easy. But I mean, aside from that, I mean, you have the Lions the Lions play better at home than they do on the road. They have to win against New England this year. But I still don't trust that Lions team to beat the Rams. I just don't. That team seems like it's in disarray right now with Patricia as a head coach, in my opinion. And then you have the Cardinals, who are probably the worst team in football. You have the 49ers, who aren't far from that. And then, I mean, am I missing anybody, or is that it?
I think that's it. Because you'd have the Lions, the Bears, the Eagles. That's who you're missing. So the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles coming to LA though, and the Eagles, they are. You saw them on Sunday. They are a shell of themselves from a year ago. They're an average football team at this point, if you can even say that. Wentz has really struggled to after the ACL. They losing Frank Reich and John DeFilippo to Minnesota and to the Colts has really hurt that offense, play calling wise.
They lost Ronnie McLeod.
We say coaching matters, and coaching matters. Losing those 2 guys really hurt Philadelphia. And they're dealing with injuries all over the place. So especially in the secondary, Sidney Jones has been hurt. They're playing guys that won't be on the team next year. So I mean, I'm not scared of the Eagles whatsoever. So I mean, really, it's the Bears, and then it's home free for the Rams, really, and the Saints. There's potential for loss, but who knows what happens? It's going to be a race to the finish. That's for sure.
Well, the cool thing for the Rams is that that Saints team is going to go up against some desperate teams, and when you get down to the end of the year, you do get those games where you're like, whoa, where did that come from? And I think they might be up against that. I mean, when you look at the Falcons game, I don't think people are giving the Falcons enough credit. They're a team that's literally clawing. I mean, if they lose this game, they might not make the playoffs. They beat the Rams last year in the first round of the playoffs, and they were able to give the Eagles a game, although it was kind of a really boring game, but they were able to give them a game. And my point with that is the Falcons' record doesn't really indicate their talent. They dealt with some serious injuries early on. They lose their star linebacker. Keanu Neal gets hurt. I mean, he's out for the year. It's brutal what they've had. I mean, they got smacked with some injuries on the defense, and I think now that they're getting their linebacker back, whose name randomly escapes me. He's one of my favorite linebackers in the league, and now I can't even remember his name. Deion Jones. Deion Jones will be back. I think this team, they're a team that might actually benefit playing in New Orleans based on the way that they run their offense. They're very vertical, and they play well on that, in the dome like that. They play in the dome themselves. So they have to play the Falcons, and that's going to be on Thursday night. Anything can happen on a short week. So, I mean, that would be huge for the Rams. Talk about winning the bye. You win a 54-51 game against the best AFC team in the league. You go on a bye. A lot of these guys get to, enjoy Thanksgiving for the first time, and I think Brocker said 10 years. And now you get a win from the Falcons, which knocks the Saints for the moment out of first place, and that tie doesn't matter as long as you don't lose. And then the Saints go to Dallas, and to me, I don't think Dallas's offense can match the Saints. But Dallas's defense, coached by Rod Marinelli, that coordinator, he's got something going on. I mean, Leighton Vander Esch is playing very good football as a rookie. Obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence is a game wrecker. They have some really nice talent in the back end. I mean, obviously, you have to look at Byron Jones, former first-round pick out of UConn, and then, Chidobe Awuzie. So they're getting a lot of good play out of those guys, as well as Jalen Smith. And then the next game, Buccaneers, I think that's pretty much the easiest thing to pick. They're not going to lose to the Buccaneers twice on the season. Panthers, that's not easy. The Panthers are a team, you never really know what you're going to get with them. They did just lose to the Lions after Ron Rivera stupidly went for 2, and they did get blown out by the Steelers, but they're 6-4, and they're a good football team that could give the Saints a run for their money while they're at home. And then really the interesting one, because they have to play the Panthers twice, but the interesting one here, Blaine, I would say is the Steelers, because while the Steelers aren't the best road team, their offense can match with anyone almost. If they're on the right night, they have the talent around. The way James Conner's played this year. Ben Roethlisberger's not afraid to throw for 500 yards if he has to. You have Antonio Brown. You have Juju Smith-Schuster. You have James Washington, Ryan Switzer. The tight end, obviously, Vance McDonald. And then, their defense, it's not the greatest, but they force turnovers. And I got to tell you, I think that game, that could be huge too. If the Saints haven't lost yet, that could be a game to watch.
Yeah, the number one seed is certainly within grasp for the Rams. I think it kind of sets up perfectly for them. Like you said, they control they are, because of the tiebreak, they aren't in control of their own destiny, but in a sense, they are. If the Rams take care of business, they will have an opportunity to get that home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And I really like the Rams' chances better against the Saints in LA than I do in New Orleans in a playoff type atmosphere. But yeah, just going back, going back to the beginning of the year, when I saw the Rams had a bye in week 12, I was like, I'm not sure I like that. I'm not a fan of the late bye. I kind of like it there in the weeks, really 8 to 10 range. Week 12 is these are the last buys of the season. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but after this game, the team definitely needs it. It came at a perfect time. You'll get Gurley back healthy, get Talib back healthy, get a week to just refuel from what was an exhausting game and really hit the home stretch ready to go.
I totally agree. And I don't know, Blaine, if they'll end up resting their starters. And, I think that's the best thing. Treat week 16, treat week 17, treat your 16th game as a 16th game. If you're playing for something, play for it. I wouldn't rest my starters and miss out an opportunity, golden opportunity to host the playoff game. You saw how important that Monday night audience was. That was on a week's notice. A week's notice. And I think, one of the things that I keep hearing is that game showed everyone that the Rams right now own LA. It's not just football. They're better than the Lakers. They're better than the Dodgers. They're better than the Clippers. They're better than the Chargers. They're better than the Kings. And it's not really a question right now. As iconic of a sports town they are, the Rams, after 4-12 season 2016, have become the front runner in a monster market in sports. And now that could, and I said it last night, this has the potential to be the scariest home field advantage. And man, when they move into that stadium, I don't see how anyone's going to have a better home field advantage than them. I really don't.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And yeah, I completely agree with you. If you are playing, unless the Rams somehow, if the Saints collapse and the Rams somehow lock this number 1 seed up by week 16, week 17, which I don't foresee happening, I think this is definitely a race that's going to go to the end. If the number 1 seed is within grasp, you have to play for it. Getting at home field throughout the playoffs is huge. We saw what it can do in this type of game. So yeah, unless that home field is locked up, I think we're going to play their starters through week 17, and I like doing that too, especially you have the bye. At some point this late in the year, giving your starters 2 weeks off it at some point becomes more of a detriment than it is helpful.
And before, because we have been really trucking along here, and there's so much talent, there's so much content in this podcast, but Blaine, I gotta point it out, I don't think the Rams are a first exit team this year. I know people have been saying that. First off, they're going to have a top 2 seed unless things go really south. But second, the Rams last year, as great as they were, 11-5, they won one primetime game against the 49ers. And albeit it was on the road, it was fun. We enjoyed it. It was the best Thursday night game I've ever watched. But that was against the 49ers. And at the time, that was not a good 49ers team. They played against the Vikings. You mentioned this multiple times. They couldn't beat them. They got outplayed. Things happened. I get it. They got outplayed. The Eagles game, that was the moment. They really needed to win that football game. Nick Foles comes in after Carson Wentz tears his ACL. Still can't get it done. They beat the Titans, but the Titans, weren't they more like the Rams in a sense that they're not a really experienced team yet? You don't really know how good they can be, but you do know how bad they can be, and you saw how bad they were against the Patriots. They destroyed the Seahawks, and Seahawks didn't really matter that year. So, shouldn't we have seen this coming? The Rams, Falcons experienced the year before, they're in the Super Bowl. I don't know. I think we should have. I think I got ahead of myself. It's easy, hindsight's 20/20. This year, however, primetime game, Thursday Night Football, at the Coliseum. It's like the same. Honestly, it reminded me a little bit of the playoff game. People went nuts for that game. Vikings, they beat a good Vikings team. I don't care what the record says. They're a good football team, and the Rams played a good football team at that point in the year. They beat the Chiefs in the biggest regular season game I've seen. They've done it all. They lost to the Saints, but they're 10-1, and they lost to the Saints in a game that probably could have gone.
They're going to have another opportunity in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I guess now, when they're playing prime time against the Bears. Like I agree. I don't think they're a first round exit team. I think the Saints are obviously tough. They're the 2 seed. The only time you would play them in the playoffs would be the NFC Championship game. The Bears they're the 3 seed, so same thing. You only face them in the NFC Championship game. I believe that Bears team is very underrated, and Rams fans are overlooking them from what I can tell. Right now Washington is in that 4 seed. We'll see how long that lasts with Colt McCoy at the helm. I could easily see Dallas, or if Philadelphia can figure it out, which I don't. That team is that the Eagles are in a bad spot. I think if anything, Dallas takes that division. And then Carolina, you never know what you're going to get from them. They're the 5 seed. I would like how the Rams match up with them. And then Minnesota. That came down to the final drive on that Thursday night game. So Minnesota has the weapons. They have Kirk Cousins is prone to mistakes, but you have weapons. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph, obviously, and then this time Dalvin Cook will be healthy. So, who knows? I would like Rams' chances, but the Vikings. I don't think you can overlook them at all. But I don't see the Rams being a one and done type team this year. they've won games that they would have lost last year, and if that trend continues, I don't foresee them losing a playoff game.
I totally agree, man. Hey, it's been a lot of fun. It's been, we're hitting 2 hours and 8 minutes. Blaine, I think if anyone says that we didn't break this game down to the core, I don't know what they're talking about. Because
I know. I might need a bye week after breaking this down. Like, we broke it down play by play. Like this game earned it though. You have to respect the greatest NFL regular season game of all time, and I think we definitely did that.
Absolutely, it was such a blast. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. For Jake Ellenbogen, he's Blaine Grisak. This has been the Downtown Rams podcast, episode number 37, or 137. Wow, I'm really just decrediting myself. 137. I guess 2 hours, over 2 hours is going to result in mistakes. So got to hang up before that happens. But thanks again so much, guys. I will be back to give you a bi-week podcast that kind of recaps the year as it was and talk more about the playoffs, because we could talk about the playoffs all day. Hope you guys enjoy and have a great Thanksgiving. I will talk to you guys soon. Later.